everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Weep from the Winnipeg Free Press. Together we are Kenny and Renny. This is the Kenny and Renny post-game show after a loss that you're happy about. I mean, not happy about the loss, but I don't know that there's a lot that the Winnipeg Jets can be upset about when it comes to this game. I mean, and credit to Kyle Connor, who after the game, I kind of asked him the question about it following his answer, but moral victories, throw them out the window for this team. This team is on a mission. This team isn't making excuses. This team is just going out and saying that's a game that we feel we should have found a way to win. I'll tell you this, athletes do believe in the kind of found a way to win thing that I kind of push off to the side at times, I think, for different reasons. I think, if you're an athlete, the idea of finding a way to overcome it's a noble pursuit, as long as it's done with the best honest effort. My beef all the time with the whole idea of the find a way to win is so often I was seeing it happen when the Winnipeg Jets were kind of mailing it in and finding a way to win. I don't like that kind of thing. This is nothing about this game is mailing it in. The Winnipeg Jets were absolutely dominant in this game. I mean, they left no doubt about who was the better team on the ice tonight, everywhere except for the scoreboard. And I mean, if you take a look at it, the first period, they seem to be fully in control of that game. Bad bounce, goes in the back of their net. I mean, that happens. You got to be able to handle those things. Plenty of time for the Winnipeg Jets to do something about it afterwards. A little bit of a breakdown on their next goal as Kuzmenko scores, has far too much time. You leave a shooter like that with that much time, he is going to pick apart your goaltender. And then, the only other goal they allow is an empty net goal. But this was just a grind game by the Winnipeg Jets that I take a look. This is the end of the 8-game road trip. They end up going essentially getting 5 of 8 points. What do they go? 4-2 and 2. Sorry, not 5 of 8, 10 of 16. 4-2 and 2. Pretty good. That's a good road trip or homestand. Most teams would be okay with that homestand. The Winnipeg Jets, I think, would maybe have wanted a little bit more. Tonight is that night. The one thing I take away from this homestand is, to me, it's the best stretch of hockey they've played all year. And regardless of the results, regardless of how many points they got, they only come away with 1 point against the LA Kings. I thought that was just an absolutely phenomenal game by them. This is a game, again, I don't know how much more to stress it. I don't know that I'm going to have that much more to say about it, to be honest with you. I'm not going to leave Ken Weeb out in the cold for too long, because the only thing to say about this game is that it was the Winnipeg Jets showing exactly what makes them a good team, and somehow it just went in their direction, right? Maybe it's that ricochet off the glass in the last game that the Winnipeg Jets score to win that game. Maybe, the hockey gods giveth and the hockey gods taketh away. But regardless of what their record was on this road trip, how it started, how it ended, the vast majority of this showed the Winnipeg Jets to be an absolute monster to deal with. I mean, the kind of team that is just miserable to play against, frustrating to play against. It's not like the old days where you'd go into a barn scared of a team because they'd have the kind of players that would go out and catch you with open ice hits and all these kind of things. Those days, ladies and gentlemen, are long gone. It is a new kind of game. I lament the loss of a lot of that, but a lot of people like the new style of game and the skill, whatever. But I'll say this, that if you're coming into Winnipeg, the way that they play, if they play like that, and they did consistently on this trip, it's going to be a hard night. You're not going to get shots through. You're going to be leaned on the entire time. You just don't have empty. Playing the Winnipeg Jets is like trying to fight off a swarm of bees. They just do not stop. They keep coming. That's what we saw tonight. Didn't result in the victory, but I couldn't be more high on where I think the Winnipeg Jets are right now. This is a long enough stretch for me to see this. I talked about it at the beginning of the year. The Winnipeg Jets were out ahead of everybody else because I think they were more prepared than everybody else. They were at the top of their game when other teams were figuring it out. But now, in a time of the season where everyone is kind of figuring out exactly who they are and putting their best foot forward, the Winnipeg Jets are still showing that they have the capability to be a dominant team night after night that just makes the lives of their opponents miserable. I like where this team is headed when it comes to that. I like what it means for their prospects of being a tough team to play against at the end of the season, which is something that I'm always looking forward to. That's my take on this whole thing. Time to bring in the man with the best music in the business for his take on everything, folks. Here comes Kenny. Kenny, my friend, I just added you into the show and then you took yourself out of it. I don't know how to say, keep your hands off the control board. There's one producer on this show and one producer only, but you get away with it because you look like that. You look, the black suit, the blue tie, the blue shirt. It can be a little intimidating. I feel like I'm about to get whacked here, but it does look like $1 million. This is one of my favorites. I was inspired by you the other day. There's a style at a certain time. We both got a similar style, and this is mine from Frankie and the boys down. I've got the purple tie on again, Ken, because I had the last minute smoothie to match the blueberry seeds.
Well done.
Here. Done. So no one will notice it, I'm sure, all the blueberry seeds in my teeth, because it matches with the purple tie. Regardless, you want suits that can kind of go with anything. Head on down to Vittorio Rossi on Corden Avenue. Walk in, loudly proclaim Kenny and Renny sent you. Ask for Frankie and the boys, and they will do you up right. Ken, what'd you see in that game?
Yeah, I mean, I saw a lot of what you did. I mean, I think this was, one of the games where, the Jets were very good on a lot of fronts. They talked about needing a better start than they had Thursday against the Kraken. And man, I thought that was one of the best periods I've seen Nikolai Ehlers play this year. I mean, he's had a lot of great ones, but I thought he was absolutely flying, like bombing around the ice, all kinds of things. Clap City, breakaway chance, rebound chance off the post. I really liked the way that he was moving. I thought he was really flying out there. I'm very intrigued. I can't say this enough. I mean, I'm very intrigued by the Lowry-Ehlers combination, and I wasn't positive this would be something that I would need to see a longer stretch of games on, but quite frankly, those two have worked really well together. I think Lowry's showing that he has that offensive component to his game. And Sean, we know this. I mean, Adam is a guy that is often, kind of making fun of the long stretches that he can sometimes go through with cold spells when it comes to offensive production. But I don't think there'd be a lot of cold spells for Adam Lowry if he was playing alongside Nikolai Ehlers for an extended period of time. I just don't. When you play with Adam Lowry, you play a lot in the offensive zone, Sean. And that helps Nikolai Ehlers because he's a guy that thrives with the puck on his stick. So for me, I'd like to see more of that. And, we talk about opening up possibilities. I mean, the Jets could be in the market for a, top six winger instead of a, second line center here potentially. But again, I still think the Jets will upgrade more on the Sean Monahan type of player route. And they, in a lot of ways, maybe they should, but man, I'm sure excited to see this combination or the tandem for the next little stretch of time. And also, Sean, I mean, I love the way that Velarde has played alongside Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor, but that trio looked really good together also in terms of Gabe bringing his puck possession game along with Lowry and Ehlers for that stretch of time also. So I know it doesn't satisfy the folks that want to see Ehlers with Scheifele and Connor or Ehlers with Scheifele and Velarde, but I liked what I saw from that combination platter. Alex Iafallo had one of the best chances in the third period. Josh Morrissey with just a brilliant cross ice pass. I understand Iafallo didn't have a lot of room to go with that pass. That was brilliant by Josh Morrissey, but really good scoring chance for him there. So anyway, I thought that the Jets, they controlled a bulk of the play. What were the high dangers? The high dangers by the end, Sean, according to Natural Stat Trick, at 5-on-5, the Jets had 13 high dangers compared to 3 for the Flames, 16-4 in all situations, 13-3 at 5-on-5. So I'm with you. I wasn't down. I was writing the gamer tonight. I wasn't down in the room, but I loved, when you were pressing Kyle Connor about the effort and what it means that, an effort like that is, it's still not up to their standard, even though they did so many good things in the game, that the Jets weren't sitting here patting themselves on the back saying, we got 10 out of 16 points on the 8-game homestand and, got goalied for, and quite frankly, Sean, it's one of the first time the Jets got goalied this year. Don't you think?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they've had goalies play well against them. But there weren't a ton of games where you'd say, man, the Jets played excellent, but, if it weren't for the goalie at the other end, they would have won the game. So, I mean, and that's a testament to how they've played through 47 games. It also means, Dustin Wolf was very good tonight. I mean, excellent. He wasn't just good, he was excellent. But I also love that Adam Lowry said too. I mean, Dustin Wolf's a great goalie. If you want to beat a great goalie, you got to spend a little bit more time, even with 13 high danger chances at even strength. Jets needed to do a better job of taking his eyes away and I think getting a little bit more in that greasy area, right? So, I mean, that's one thing that even in a game where they had tons of scoring chances and did a lot of things well, very good defensively for the most part, they still didn't do a good enough job of getting traffic. And Sean, to your point about a repeatable game that's good for the playoffs, this was up there. But the one area they could have been a little better at was getting around the blue paint, right? That to me was one of the few places where the Jets weren't quite at their standard. But I mean, yeah, I mean this is nitpicking city, but that's what you get when the team is in the running for first overall in the NHL. So I mean, I'm with you. I think this homestand was one of the. I think we may look back at in game 82 and say, man, the Jets sure made hay during that stretch of time when they were home for 3 weeks. And it also, I also think, Sean, as Scott Arniel alluded to this morning, some of the tangible benefits will not be evident until later on this season, right? The rest, the time in your own bed, the heavy lifting workouts, just that stretch of time to get the body ready for now what will be a 7 games in 13 day stretch with, extensive travel. I think we're going to see that more. But the biggest and most important thing for the Jets during this 8-game homestand, they got back to their foundation of being a defense-first team. They had a couple of games where they got the offense going, but for the most part, what we saw throughout most of this homestand was structured hockey, and that has to be the foundational piece for the Winnipeg Jets if they want to make any noise in the spring.
Couple things to get to here. First, I just wanted to point this out. Rain Man Frank, do I have it right? Says, nice to meet you, Renny, on the 300 level concourse during the first intermission. No, it's not Frank. Or is it? Yeah, no, it's not Frank. But Frank, there was a lot of people who came up to me today. I just wanted to say I always do appreciate it when folks from the podcast audience come up and introduce themselves to me when they see do the same thing to Ken and I. We really do enjoy that. We love putting faces to computer names or handles. So thank you for doing that. That was very much appreciated. Lots of different directions to go in there, Ken. The one I'm going to start going in the direction of is the Lowry line. No, I'm going to start where you finished. The one thing that is, I think, the superpower of the Winnipeg Jets is how they protect the guts of the ice, the way that Scott Arniel talks about it. You could see, for the most part, with the Winnipeg Jets, it's like I've said this before, it's like trying to run through a thicket, trying to get to the front of the net, trying to get a shot off. Like, imagine standing in the middle of a whole bunch of willows and trying to shoot your stick. That's what it's like trying to shoot for the Winnipeg Jets. I do understand what they're saying about this tonight, how they wanted to make things a little bit grittier. But at the same time, the Calgary Flames did that really, really well. Like, the Calgary Flames, almost as good as any team I've seen do that against the Jets this year, did to the Jets, at least in that one little part, because so much of the rest of this game was just Jets hockey, Jets controlled. Like, with the Calgary Flames played the Winnipeg Jets game here tonight. But the one part of the game that the Jets didn't get to play was that right in the heart of the ice, guts of the ice, make a last second pass, boom, it's in the back of the net. Because the Calgary Flames shut down the guts of the ice. Now, I actually do think the Jets handled it really well. The volume that they did that, the guys that they got in his eyes, the tips, that's how they get their one goal. I understand that, in the conversation I had with Kyle Connor afterwards was just based on the idea that Kyle Connor was not walking away with a moral victory in this one, right? He wasn't about to say, listen, we dominated this game. You win some, you lose some. No, we want to win every single one. We want to be the team that finds the way to win a game where it looks like we tried every single way and you just ran into a hot goaltender. He's not buying it. He's not having it. I love that idea. I know that Scott Arniel loves that idea. And I think the Jets would figure it out. I mean, if this is a first round series here, folks, I think the Winnipeg Jets find a way to get inside against that Calgary Flames team, but give the Calgary Flames their flowers in two departments. Dustin Wolf was the best player in this game tonight. We'll talk about Comrie. He no doubt wins the Sean Reynolds stat for the best goaltender in this game. But one of the things that the Calgary defense I thought did really, really well, Ken, is I never really saw them panic throughout that game. They handled the pucks along the boards and contended the Jets along the boards down low. They didn't let them do that thing where they just get moving back in behind the net, and that just confuses the goaltender and gets guys looking in the wrong way. They kept the Jets in front of them, and that's why you'll notice so often, even when the Jets were shooting shots from the point, how many times did it get knocked down by a Calgary Flames defender who was facing the shooter and getting in the shooting lane, knocking it down and taking it the other direction? People will very likely remember this, but a number of games back, Logan Stanley had a shot go off his heel and into the net. I do believe it was another game that
Nashville
Comrie was starting. Okay, so it wasn't. But
Yossi shot.
And so I had said, yes, that's right. It was Roman Josi against Nashville. And people had said, what are you going to do about it? And I said, well, no, I actually disagree with that. Defensemen are supposed to face towards the puck and box their guy out, not facing their guy, but it's the same thing in basketball. You box your guy out with your shoulder or your back or your hip or whatever you can. But if you're not facing the ball and in a position to try and grab the ball, you're not doing it right. And in that situation, Logan Stanley wasn't doing it right. He was completely focused in on his guy, and what he became was an object that the puck could go off and into the net. You want to take that out of your game. The Calgary Flames took that out of their game tonight, so they deserve their flowers for the way they defended the front of the net, the way that they didn't panic in front of the net. Talking with Ryan Leslie and the crew that you heard on the broadcast tonight, this is a team, this Calgary team, that can grind. It sounds like the grind was getting a little bit difficult for them as of late. They'd lost 2 straight, I thought it was, Ken, to the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah, after beating Chicago, yeah.
After beating Chicago. Huge games. I mean, anyone who's saying that the Calgary Flames just decided to get up for the Jets, don't give me that. They just played 2 games against the St. Louis Blues, who are starting to look like, with the Vancouver Canucks looking like they are walking wounded. It looks like that 8th and final spot could be between the St. Louis Blues and the Calgary Flames. So to drop 2 to the team that is pursuing you, that's a tough one. No doubt they were trying to give whatever they could. But I'll say this, Ken, I'll end on this before we move to, and we should move to, well, let's pivot to Comrie after this, and I'll let you take it over for a bit. But yesterday at practice, sitting with the Calgary crew, Dustin Wolf was going through the starters routine for the next day, and they were shocked. They thought they were going to go with their backup goaltender, and they were a little bit baffled by it. So it sounds like, I don't know enough about their rotation and how they handle their goaltenders, but it sounds like this is one of those unexplainables why their head coach went with Dustin Wolf in the game tonight. Call it intuition, but talk about a coach in touch with his team, because he put the guy in tonight. And it's funny, I had suggested to those guys, is he thinking that the only shot they have against the Jets is for a guy to go in and steal a game? That's exactly what Dustin Wolf did on this night. Now, that said,
just quickly on Wolf, he let in a couple toughies against the Blues, I think, from talking to Ryan, and also it being in the scrum with Ryan Huska. He talked about the ownership that Wolf took, and I think it was one of those situations where the guy that is kind of growing into the starter, he wanted to give him a chance to go back right away after having a tough go. This was his 10th start in the last 14 games. And 5th start in the last 6. So it sort of has been about upping the workload, but I think that's where the surprise came from. But I mean, for us, we've seen this a lot in with various coaches. When you have a young goalie trying to establish himself, you want to give him a chance to bounce back after a rough outing because he's had a great year for them.
Sounds like he gave himself the Pristine Roofing wake-up call.
There you go.
In those 2 games. And you know what that means, folks. Time to give North End Rick the Pristine Roofing wake-up call. Get him up right now. It's only 10:10. What's a call at this time of night when you need roofing, siding, or exterior needs? You can also call Pristine Roofing as well at 204-237-7663. They're ready to go. You need your roof, siding, anything like that done, any kind of exteriors, you can do it right now. Get on the list as quick as you can, folks. Call Pristine Roofing and give your home that refreshing Pristine Roofing wake-up call. Okay, let's go to the man that just cannot catch a break. My guy who I got permission to bring his his name into the conversation. My guy Tico, who makes it to plenty at both year enders he was at for us. Ken and Tico and I will chat every once in a while, and he was thinking that we're basically at the stage where, regardless of what's happening, how it's happening, results are results. There's a problem with Eric Comrie as it stands right now. Do you see that?
A problem with Comrie? What do you mean?
Well, I think I think that what he's saying is what a lot of people are thinking. How do you go 0-8? Like, how does that happen? Now, there's a lot of explainers. The Winnipeg Jets obviously not giving them run support. They've only got 12 goals in those 8 games. But is there something that we're missing here, Ken? Is there some reason why the Winnipeg Jets do not seem to be the same team results-wise with Eric Comrie that they are with Connor Hellebuck?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see that. I mean, obviously, I understand why. I mean, this is the poster child for trust the process. I think, Sean, is how I would put it. The Jets didn't give up a ton, but it's not like, earlier on people are saying, oh, well, soft goals here. And I mean, look at the first game against Calgary, the 2 banks, right? There were the 2 bank shots against the Flames in the first meeting of the year, right? Or that wasn't preseason, that was regular season, right? The 2 off the back or shoulder in October in the 5-3 win. I mean, I don't see soft goals being scored. The Coronado shot is off Neil Pionk, Sean. The Kuzmenko shot, yes, it's been a tough year for Kuzmenko, who had a great year last year, but he walked down the lane with a clear path to the net, and like the Jets didn't defend that well. I mean, I understand folks saying, "Oh, well, you're making excuses." I'm not making excuses. I'm pointing out a fact. Neither one of the goals is his fault. So if a team only scores 1, even when you give up 2, I mean, you're not winning any of those games. I mean, Comrie was the reason the Jets got to overtime against the LA Kings on a night they had very little generated offensively. He's above average in save percentage at .904. The league average right now, 900. His goals against after today goes down to 287. Now, it's not at the Laurent Brossoit numbers last year, which, very low. But it just sort of reinforces that Laurent Brossoit was the best backup in the NHL last year. Yes, Anthony Stolarz was great in Florida also, but we knew it would be tough for Comrie to equal those statistical numbers from Brossoit, but he's doing his job as the backup. Now, I don't see the Jets playing differently in front of them, Sean. I mean, do you? I don't think they're playing differently. They were very good defensively, and they generated 39 shots. I mean, they haven't generated 39 shots in front of Hellebuck on a ton of nights this year. So
as of late, like the Ducks game back in,
yes, December, I agree. Maybe it was a little different, but
the last 2 games, no. I mean, the last 2 games they've played absolutely. I mean, I don't know. Is it the luck of the draw? Or well, here's a question, Ken. Should the Jets be managing who they play him against better? I mean, if you're talking about trying to find the least challenging and I'm trying to say this in a respectful way because I know this is something that Scott Arniel usually gets really upset about, because every team in the NHL is challenging, but like maybe rather than putting, Connor Hellebuyck in for the games that you're playing against a lot of the Sharks and different teams like that. Maybe those are the games you should be prioritizing getting Eric Comrie in to try and get him some wins, or put Connor Hellebuyck into the games that he's got a better chance of affecting the outcome, a la Dustin Wolf tonight.
Yeah, I mean, so my counter to that would be that the Jets are about to play 3 Central Division games. So, I mean, could you make the argument that the easier game is Monday in Utah? I
Well,
guess,
I
but I
guess
mean,
the
it's not.
point of
It's
what
not.
I'm saying is usually Connor Hellebuyck will play on the front end of a back-to-back or something like. I don't think it's very debatable that the way that they've selected these games, they've quite often given Eric Comrie the harder of the two tasks, which is strange when one goaltender is the best goaltender in the world and the other one is one who's been for the most part a career backup. Why would you not give the toughest task to your Hart Trophy potentially winning goaltender rather than your backup who can't seem to get a win no matter how good he plays?
Yeah, I mean, they did do that in the last back-to-back. They gave him the front end, which was a benefit to Comrie in that game. I mean, can you do it all the time? I just think you get into a little bit of overcoaching, Sean. And again, I'm not disputing the theory and or any of that, but I just think that the value of Central Division games is higher. And again, I understand 2 points are 2 points and whatever else, but I think this was a good place for Comrie to play. I mean, it's a low shot volume team and a team playing at the end of a
This would be an
4-game road
example
trip.
of it for
This was a
sure.
great example. I mean, could they have done a little bit differently earlier on? I mean, I don't know. I mean, you're almost always going to prioritize the starting goalie would be my where I'm coming from. I think that this was a more than sufficient place for him to play, and same with the LA game. We knew that they were going to be lower volume, so I honestly, with how Comrie is playing, Sean, I don't think they need to protect him. And I know that's not what you're saying. You're saying maybe there's a more favorable matchup. I mean, I think it's good for the Jets to have played him against Vegas and against against Colorado at certain times. I mean, I don't think this is, if you're Eric Comrie, you're obviously disappointed with losing 8 in a row, but I don't think if you're Eric Comrie, your confidence is shaken. I mean, this is a guy who works every single day. I don't think he's going in the net feeling pressure that it's not going well or that his job is in jeopardy, but I just think this is the way it's going to be. I mean, it's going to be a 3 or 4 game to 1 ratio down the stretch. Comrie needs to get 20 starts. This isn't like David Riddick when he couldn't play and Hellebuyck all of a sudden had to run 13 in a row. The Jets are confident. And this is not false confidence, Sean. He's playing well enough in every game. If you're the Jets, you got to be pissed off at yourself that you can't support the goaltender that is going through an 8-game personal losing streak. And that's how I see it.
Yeah.
I don't see any issues with how the Jets are playing in front of them at all. I mean, I don't think they're playing differently.
Well, so it's one of the things I said when I had this conversation with Tico is like I'm a guy who looks to try and dive into this, and you know me, I've never been afraid of being critical of the Winnipeg Jets when I thought there was a reason to be critical of the Winnipeg Jets. I don't see, like tonight. I know GIF guy said earlier on. He said maybe he's had too many lampies, but he thought both of those shots should have been stopped. I couldn't disagree more. I mean, the first one is a fluke shot that goes just like right perfectly in to the net. And the next one is a sniper that's just given way too much time to pick a spot in the goaltender, which really was kind of, I'll be honest, Ken, that goal seemed odd to me. It's been a long time since the Winnipeg Jets let a guy into that high danger of a scoring area with that much time. So, I mean, maybe that's odd. Maybe that's different compared to what you're usually seeing when Connor Hellebuyck is in net. But this is one of those questions that, like, you're searching for patterns. How can a team that's this good, whose other goaltender has only this many losses on the year, how is it possible that this goaltender could be winless in this year with the stats that he has, with the numbers that he has, with the eye tests that we've seen from this guy? And the only thing I can come up with is some questions do not have answers. And I don't, Scott Arniel said he doesn't have answers for this. And it doesn't mean when a coach says something, I just sit back and say, okay, whatever. But when a hockey mind like, Scott Arniel, who's got his team in second place in the entire NHL, is out there saying, I do not have an answer for this, you guys and gals. That to me is what I'm seeing as well. I'm not looking at Comrie. I'm not thinking that the team doesn't have confidence in him. They should have confidence in him. He made a lot of really great saves tonight. He had one that I thought Ken was going to be the hashtag
Right.
keg save of the game until the one on Kyle Connor. But I'm kind of giving it away early. So why don't we? Well.
Just
We'll
go
get
to
to
it.
that.
Sure. Yep.
No.
No.
We'll do that later. We'll do that later in the show. But I don't think there's an answer to this. Eric Comrie has played good enough to win. I'd say 5 to 6 of those games that we're talking about. And to put it in reverse, if you took the Winnipeg Jets and gave the exact same results from the Winnipeg Jets or the way that they played in those 8 games in front of Connor Hellebuck rather than Comrie, I think that he maybe gets 2 of those victories, and that's it. Because in the end, it's pretty simple here. The Winnipeg Jets aren't scoring when he's in net. I don't think it has anything to do with the player. I do think, Ken, to a degree, if you want to go and pick games where they play the second of a back-to-back on New Year's and they go in and they play the Colorado Avalanche, a team that's got speed to burn, I think you're setting your team up for a game in which they're not going to get a lot of shots. So, and then tonight, between, whether you would have played Comrie last time against the Vancouver Canucks, who are, a little bit of a garbage fire right now and losing all their games, versus the Calgary Flames, who, have an identity and can grind. That grind means it's going to be hard to get to the front of the net. There is no doubt in my mind that Connor Hellebuck got the easier assignment last game than Eric Comrie did. So the only explanation I have that would say why the Jets are not producing as many goals with him in net as with Connor Hellebuck, I think there is, to a degree, tough assignments that he is drawing, which is the job of a backup goaltender. I'm not saying it's incumbent on the Jets to put him in the better spot, but I would say that there's games that you are using your better goaltender in the easier of the games than you're using your backup goaltender and giving him a harder challenge. And it seems like he hasn't had trouble coming up to against the challenge. It's the team that has had a hard time rising to that challenge.
Bang on it. And just the other thing too, I agree with everything you said about the Canucks, Sean, but the problem there is that they were just coming off a 3-0 win over the Leafs, so they looked like the tougher matchup, kind of, even though Calgary is slightly ahead of them in the standings, right? So, I think there's no way of Scott Arniel knowing that the Canucks were going to be as poor as they were in that game, even though, yes, they've had, they've been bad.
My counter to that is stylistically, the way these two teams play, you're more likely to get into a grind, right? So you heard Ryan, you heard the guys come in, Millsy talk about it. That's what this team is. That's why they're where they are. They can grind and they can grind and they can grind, right? That's not the Vancouver Canucks. The Vancouver Canucks are a little bit flashy. And once you disjoint a bunch of flashy players, then there's just a whole bunch of holes all over the ice. And that's what we've seen from the Vancouver Canucks as of late. Although, in fairness, and you know what, maybe I just absolutely quashed my last statement, they were having a pretty good defensive run on that road trip, the Vancouver Canucks, before they got to Winnipeg, even though they were losing most of those games.
Yeah, and I think both of them, if I'm not wrong, weren't they both 22 shot efforts, right? And the argument would be that the high end skill on the Canucks is slightly higher than the Flames. So, and anyways, we can debate that all we want, but regardless, I think Comrie is playing well enough that some people have been saying, "Oh well, do the Jets need to upgrade their backup goalie position?" They may consider it, but to me, I don't think that's not a high priority for them. They have other issues that are higher up on the chain for me, and including defense.
I will say this because we're on here. We might as well just give all of the awards to Dustin Wolf on this night because sticking with him, no doubt, it paid off for the Calgary Flames on this night. And if you are looking to pay off high interest credit cards or debt, we suggest you go talk to our friends at Cambrian Credit Union about their payoff loan. They can show you how taking out a loan to pay off your debt actually gets you debt free faster, and you can save thousands of dollars. Go to cambrian.mb.ca to book an appointment online. Ken, I wanted to chat a little bit longer. I know you brought up the second line before. I know you want to see a longer look at it. Are we at a stage where you think, I was having a conversation with Johnny Lou up in the press box as this was happening. I stick with what I said last time. I think the Winnipeg Jets know who they want to become the playoff time. And while this is an interesting experiment and something good to have in your back pocket to go to in the playoffs, by the time Mason Appleton comes back and Nemestikov comes back and all those kind of things, I think they're going to want to get Mason Appleton back up to speed. You know, like if you want that third line going, you got to get Mason Appleton back in there playing his role on that third line. And the one thing I'll say is everyone's talked about how much they love the defensive side of this Jets game. Like winning cures a lot, right? But if we break this down and we take a look at it, for sure, the Winnipeg Jets have been playing a great defensive grinding game. That started before Nemesnikov left, right? Like the Jets had fallen into this defensive style. Now, I think everyone's getting a lot of credit. I think people are excited by what they see from Lowry and Ehlers, but are we really seeing that much offensively from those players or the third line to say, well, we've figured the caramel secret out that was missing before? Because that third line that we talked about before had produced a significant amount of offense for this team. And as dangerous as all those lines have looked, what are we talking about here as far as offensive contributions by the second and third line since they've locked in?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it hasn't led a direct path to 10 goals a game. It's not, I think kind of your point is it's not the exact thing as when Velarde went with Connor and Ehlers. It hasn't been that popping. But Sean, when's the last time Nikolai Ehlers looked this dangerous at 5-on-5 would be the way that I look at this. He's doing more with Lowry than he had with Nemesnikov and Perfetti. And again, I'm not trying to drag down Perfetti or Nemesnikov, but in the last two games, I thought that Ehlers' ability to generate at 5-on-5 has been exceptional. So again, I'm not saying it's the long-term play, but I would say that it's worth investigating further. Now, again, I understand your point, and I have got no problem with the Jets going back to that line because, I think that there were times when the Kupari line really generated, but today that line was a lot quieter for me. Just the one shot for Nino Niederreiter. Perfetti had 2 shots, 4 attempts. Kupari had 1 shot, 2 attempts. So I think Rasmus Kupari is skating well, but your point of it is the sum of the lines 2 and 3 greater with Lowry and Ehlers together greater than it was before. Now, I think we need a longer sample size to measure that because I agree with you. I mean, the goal totals were, Lowry had 10 and Niederreiter had 10 or 11 and Appleton has 6 together. So, those numbers are very solid for a checking line that has an incredible responsibility of going up against the likes of Nathan McKinnon on a nightly basis. So long-term, long range, Sean, lines 2 and 3 need to be producing more than they have lately. But again, the measurables are a little bit different when you're looking at the assignment that those guys have been getting. But I think your point is valid. I mean, regardless of who is in the lineup and when Nemesnikov and Appleton are ready, they will both be in the lineup. So that either means the fourth line scoring more, or you need to get more cumulatively from lines 2 and 3 in terms of actual production. But I mean, today, again, Ehlers has is on the ice. Lowry has the goal. And Sean, I mean, Ehlers set up the game winner by DeMello the other night. So in a night where in a stretch where the Jets have scored 3 goals, that line has been on for 2 of them at 5-on-5. And the other one was a power play goal, was it not?
Yeah. So I love what you're saying here. Like what you are looking for is to unlock the potential that Ehlers has, because Ehlers is doing a little bit like what I used to talk about the year that Patrick Laine had 44 goals, and only 6 of them were assisted by his primary centerman, Brian Little, at that time. He's scoring when he escapes that line. Is the line that I used then. It's the line I'll use now, because Nikolai Ehlers, before he got injured, was a point per game player, and finding a way, and clearly the power play has a lot to do with that. So I love the idea, like that to me is the most direct solution that you are trying to get to here. Here's a player that we know can do a lot and can get really dangerous. We need to open up more than what we've been seeing from him beside Nemestikov, and we need to get more than what we've seen from him beside Cole Perfetti. Here's my beef with that. There was a point tonight where I don't know if it was him who directly set up Adam Lowry, but Adam Lowry had a setup and a shot. And it was one of those ones where he had kind of the similar kind of time as Kuzmenko. And those are the kind of plays where second line centers who are like uber talented, offensive guys, they bury those, right? And that's the job of second lines quite often, is to make sure that they're contributing on the scoreboard to the offense. And I guess my take on that is I'm like everybody else here. I love what I see from Adam Lowry and Nikolai Ehlers, and I love what it's bringing out in Nikolai Ehlers. The issue with that is when it comes down to it through a playoff grind, which is what people are basically, make no doubt about it. If you are suggesting leave this alone and this is what we've found now, you're right, Ken. What you're looking for is maybe a skilled winger. And then what are you doing down the lineup, right? Are you adding Mason Appleton back in with Niederreiter? Are you keeping Rasmus Kupari as your third line center, or are you going to go out and maybe get a third line center who's a little bit different than that player and has a little bit more offensive upside and try and cobble together a bit of a scoring line there? Are you going to find a guy who's as dominant as Lowry on that line to keep that line dominant? Are you going to find a guy who scores more than Lowry has? They are all the questions that pop into my head. But this whole thing that people keep saying, I love this, let's see it, let's keep going with this. What you are suggesting, for the most part, is that you go into the playoffs with this motif. And I don't think over 4 7-game series that you get the scoring out of Adam Lowry in that role that you need from a second line center. And that, to me, is why I think in the end this is flawed, and that you go back to what you had with the third line, because the third line with Adam Lowry, Mason Appleton, I've come as far as saying I wouldn't even mind seeing a guy like Alex Iafallo go up to that line to see if he couldn't boost the scoring. But getting back to Niederreiter, Lowry, and Appleton or Iafallo, to me, that's perfection. That's perfection in what you are trying to achieve with a third line. And if you want to get Nick Ehlers going, I think the probable answer is going out and trying to find a guy that he works with, a la the Jets getting Sean Monahan last year. So I'm intrigued by what Adam Lowry is doing, but I don't see a solution there. I don't see the offensive explosion that would tell me there's a solution there. I see an amazing thing that this Winnipeg Jets lineup can seem to play with everybody, and each guy sparks a little spark with someone. I do not see an explosive second line that's going to push the first line in its scoring, and that's what I think that you're looking for. Adam Lowry, as good as they've looked, he is not that with Nikolai Ehlers.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a fair argument, but I mean, all I'm saying, Sean, is that the checking line is going to be the 2/3 of the checking line component is going to be good, no matter who is on it, and that's not a knock on Appleton. Appleton is the best choice so far, and I totally support those guys going back together. But I haven't. Nikolai Ehlers is one of the most important players on the Jets, so for me, he's looked better with Lowry than anybody else this year.
Agreed.
So that's why I'm making the vote right now. So is it possible he'd be better with Brock Nelson? Of course it is. But the issue that the Jets are going to have, Sean, not only is it complicated by the uncertainty surrounding Ehlers, the uncertainty is surrounding if it's going to work. Are you getting Paul Stastny or are you getting Kevin Hayes, which were both smart additions on the premise? One of them worked exceptionally well. The other one didn't lead to tangible results for either Ehlers or Hayes when he came in. So again, my argument is to have Ehlers try to go a little bit longer with Lowry. If you can find somebody who's more naturally gifted offensively, by all means. That's why too. I'm gonna say this again, and I don't want to be sounding like I was last year. I want to see Ehlers with Lowry and Niederreiter. Today we saw Velarde there. I'd like to see Niederreiter with those guys because we know that Lowry and Niederreiter can provide the blunt force trauma type of playoff physical nature, offensive grinding and churning that the Jets need. Now, I'm wondering if, you get a little bit more offense if Ehlers is there versus Appleton, but Appleton does his job exceptionally well also. He's not going to give you as much offense, but he's going to give you more sound defensive play most likely. So I'm okay with that too. I mean, but this is just sort of reinforcing that the Jets need, they probably need a top 6 player to go into the mix, whether that's a center or a winger. That's all I'm saying. You have the ability to sort of go whichever way that you want. But I mean, I think that, your point is valid. I mean, they're going to need more offense if they want to win 4 rounds, whether that's Lowry as the 2C or the 3C. So I'm 100% with you, but until I see a better option with Nikolai Ehlers, my vote is for Lowry, because right now, Perfetti, I've seen some signs. Today was a little bit of a quieter game, but Cole's got to push himself back into the top 6 conversation for me.
Yeah. Oh,
and that's only going to come with production. That's, I think,
no
10 games now without a goal. Yes, he broke the string the other, or maybe it might even be 11.
But anyways, in the end, in retrospect, Ken, he breaks it in a game where offense came easy to the Winnipeg Jets, and that's when he got it. It's what we've talked about on this show before, and since then, it has not come easy, no doubt. Hey, I think the best ideas are quite often stolen, and that's exactly what the Kenny and Renny show is. Just a whole bunch of things that we stole from our chat room over there and from the audience, all of our music, a lot of our good ideas, and here's one of the great ideas. I think I'm going to add something too here, Ken. Wild Bill suggests that I give a reward in honor of Lou. And what do you think of when you think of Lou? Well, there's one word for it. It's legend. So if someone is deserving of legendary status after playing, I'll be there. And with Connor Hellebuck on the team, I could see it going there in quite a in a very brisk fashion. But Dustin Wolf's performance tonight was absolutely legendary. I know no one's ever going to forgive me for handing out the very
what is happening here? Are you feeling okay?
Sweet Lou legendary award to someone from the opposition, but that was a legendary performance from Dustin Wolf tonight. So Ken, why don't you give a shout out to the legendary Sweet Lou Ferlin?
Yeah, I think might have to consider bringing buy or sell back, the Donnie Bergman special, Lou Ferlin buy or sell. But for today, if you have realty needs you'd like to have met, contact our main man, Lou Ferlin, at Royal LePage Dynamic Realty, 204-791-9971, or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@louferlin.ca. That's LOU@LOUFURLAN.ca. Lou Ferlin, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of this community, including our podcast.
I'm buying on the idea of stealing more audience ideas and selling on the idea of doing any work for myself. How's that? We'll bring that back. Ken, one thing that we should jump on before we move on here, let's just do it. Just a little bit, digging a little bit deeper into the third line. Again, I thought there were some times that line was really dominant out there tonight. And again, it kind of goes with the idea that the line that Cole Perfetti finds himself on, we don't need to talk about Nino Niederreiter because the guy's just an absolute beast. And Rasmus Kupari, I think I really like his compete level. Everything I like about those guys, it kind of just adds to me what I'm thinking about Lowry. And I should say this because 2 people made comments after I made my Lowry comments about me thinking he's not, a skilled enough scorer to be in that spot come the playoffs. One person pointed out that he's been one of their best playoff scorers the last little while. That is 100% right. So you can tick that in that box. And then there was another point, but I forgot it, so I can't steal that one from the audience, Ken. But I will go back to this and suggest, I think if you're putting yourself in a scenario where you're saying, okay, well, we're going into the playoffs with Rasmus Kupari, who we know his offensive record and what it's been since being with the Winnipeg Jets, since before being with the Winnipeg Jets, and Adam Lowry. I think that is a massively risky play if you are the Winnipeg Jets to go into the playoffs with a lineup that looks like that, and with a 2C and a 3C that look like that, and you are just asking for, the fan base and the hockey world to say, I told you so, to Kevin Cheveldayoff. If you bank on thinking that you are going to get enough secondary scoring from those two lines to spell off what you're going to get from that top line throughout a playoff run.
Yeah, I mean, then that's fair. I mean, Jets already have to figure out if Nemestikov is going to usurp Kupari when he comes back into the lineup when he's ready to, right? So Jets got to be strong down the middle. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Lowry and Scheifele, very good down the middle. I think one of Kupari, Gustafsson, and Nemestikov can easily handle the next role. But I mean, it's possible that one or both of them will, one may be pushed to the wing or whatever else. So again, I still think that the 2C is probably a priority, whether 2 or 3, whatever number you want to use, 2A, 2B, whatever. But the Jets are probably going to need to add a little bit more offense. I mean, but this play, they're not going to add a offense only player. They're going to add somebody that fits within the structure, probably bring some size. But Sean, I mean, we've been talking about it for 20 minutes. The priority has to be someone to fit with Ehlers. But the issue with that is if Ehlers may not be here beyond this season, how much of the prospect pool are you going to deteriorate in order to, unlock a player who may only be here for fewer than 40 or 50 games?
Yep.
So, I mean, that's the balancing act that the general manager and his, staff are going to have to. I mean, they probably have already been talking about it when they had their meetings, right? So,
yeah.
Anyways, it's fascinating. There's a lot of, and then the other issue too is, Sean, I mean, everyone says make a preemptive strike. Well, almost no team is willing to sell right now. So any preemptive strike means overpaying. So it's a very complex issue. And, I'm with you. I mean, I think that for the Jets to give themselves the best chance to go on a long run, they need to add offense.
Yeah.
Probably in the top 6 here. So, and they need to be strong, even stronger down the middle, even though they have some pretty accomplished players and some guys who've done a very good job playing a little bit upwards in the role that we were expecting them to play this year.
Ken, time for us to get into the Johnson Group Got You Covered play of the game here. Is it as obvious to you?
Yeah,
as
you just
me?
take it. Yeah.
You take it.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is last year. People were saying, "Oh, well, Kyle Connor only does this." Well, I mean, hey, Kyle Connor had his pocket picked on the first goal by Coronado along the boards. I mean, that's an area of his game he continues to work on. But an area that he has done exceptionally well at all year long is his back checking and backtracking. His ability to put his head down and hustle back to catch Nazem Kadri. And, he lost an edge, blew a tire, ended up in the net. I still don't know how the net didn't come off, but it didn't. And Kyle Connor was in the net, and Nazem Kadri got another shot, and it went off his back and hit the post and went out. So for me, that's my Johnston Group. We've got you covered. Play of the game from the OGs at the Johnston Group.
Yeah, absolutely nails it. He was right. The weird part about that, Nazem Kadri has the puck. He's got the goalie out and an open net, and rather than shooting on it, he passes across the ice. When he's passed it, I was blown away, and then he found the guy, and I thought, oh, that guy's got a better look, but he really didn't. There was a defenseman in front of him, and there was, more of the net occupied. That's a goal on the Jets that, it is funny. Even as much as this game went in this direction, there was the double post that almost went in, which was going to be like
Coleman.
Another gift from God. But this is a missed empty net by a player who usually you would think would attack that empty net, which could have maybe put that game out of reach right off the bat. It's interesting how things just seem to line up tonight for the Calgary Flames, even if they didn't. But I agree with you 100%. Kyle Connor gets the "We've Got You Covered" Johnson Group play of the game. Absolutely deserved for the Kenny and Renny OGs. And hey, do you run a small business in Canada? Look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers Plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more. And Ken, that brings us to our hashtag the keg save of the game. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I mean, I don't want to. You take it. You already mentioned it, but I don't want to steal it. So,
Well,
originally I thought it was going to be Comrie had a really good save, but I agree with you. It sort of got kind of he got one upped on the Jets power play.
Yeah, on the Jets power play, I really thought the Jets power play was going to score, especially when Kadri got that tripping penalty in the third period, because I thought it was lining up like the last game. If you remember the last game, Kadri took a penalty that was a little bit of a bad penalty. And then it ends up being the goal. Cole Perfetti scores to win the game against the Calgary Flames that time. So I thought it was just lining up for Kadri again, who I'm still surprised at times, like as much of a grind team as this is, he's a little casual. The high stick penalty was way too casual. His tripping penalty was way too casual. He really put his team up against it. I'm surprised they answered the bell. And really, in the end, it's Dustin Wolf who answers the bell with an absolutely insane 1980s style slide across the crease save on Kyle Connor, who knows a thing or two about putting the puck in the back of the net. He's taken a lot of the awards here tonight, and no doubt he does it all over again here with the hashtag the keg save of the game. But you don't have to agree, and I think a lot of you don't. So you know what you should do? You should just share with me and share with Ken your hashtag the keg save of the game. And you know what? You'll be happy you did, because if you do, you'll be automatically entered to win a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg, each location finer than the last. And the winner of our hashtag the keg save of the game from last show, that would be Hey Bailey 9478. Hey Bailey 9478. You know what to do. Direct message me, send me your full name, send me an email, and I will have the fine folks at the keg send you a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg, each location finer than the last. And that brings us to our hashtag. Yeah, Hey Bailey 9478. That brings us to our hashtag TCB lamplighter of the game. What do you got, Ken?
I mean, all 4 of them are interesting in their own way. And honestly, the Coleman backhand, the pickup by Coleman, people can say, oh, empty net, empty net. His ability to pick up the puck in real time on his backhand, essentially along the right wing boards, and then fire it down the ice into the open net was impressive. But
not only that, Ken, do so under pressure, and not only that, do so in a way that it gets over top of the defenseman, right? Like it's not just firing it straight down the ice. He needed to make sure it was out first and foremost. He even does it in a way where he gives the Jets, maybe a little bit of time if they want to chase the puck back, so that it takes some time off the clock. Right. Like that was planned out, that if it doesn't go in the net, it was still going to be helpful for the Calgary Flames. So I agree with you 100%, but I'm going to go.
Yeah, that's not my choice. I was rambling. Sorry. I apologize.
There you go. Keep going, Your Majesty.
It's the Lowry goal for me as the lamplighter, not because it was a Jets goal, but in a game where goals were hard to come by for the Jets, despite generating plenty of grade A chances. It's a simple play, D to D. Colin Miller takes a point shot. It's tipped in by Adam Lowry. I mean, it's a textbook type of play, but there was traffic. There was a smart shot that got through, and it's in the back of the net, and it's Lowry's 11th of the season.
I love it. There's a reason I really do love this, because the Calgary Flames were doing a great job of doing what they've done all night. I talked about it, fronting the puck, getting in shooting lanes, facing the shooting lane so that they could see the puck coming in, step in front of that puck, knock it down, and head in the other direction. Right before this goal happens, that's exactly what happens. The Calgary Flames defenders get in front of the puck, block it, and it's sitting there, and they're about to grab it and take it down the ice in the other direction. There's 2 Calgary Flames who have the position on that puck. They're the 2 closest guys to the puck. Nikolai Ehlers is in between the 2 of them and dives to chip. It's one of those plays that a lot of people really don't see, but he dives to chip the puck towards towards his defenseman, gets it to Logan Stanley, who gets it over to Miller, and then in the front of the net. What happens in that situation is you get two Calgary Flames players who are thinking, we're going to pick up this puck and we're going down on a 2-on-2 right now. You've switched their mindset. They think that this is the situation now, and all of a sudden like that, they're caught in the wrong spot. They're caught in no man's land. They're caught going in the wrong direction, and that's in the end what opens up the shooting lane for Miller, because the two top guys there, the one who's supposed to be over shutting down that shooting lane of Miller's, isn't there because they think they have the puck and they've got the best chance of possession. They should have got the puck, but Nikolai Ehlers outworks them, chips the puck back. He does not get an assist on that, but that goal is more Nick Ehlers than anyone else who ended up on the score sheet, maybe outside of Lowry, who has the really great tip. But repeatable style of goal, great effort, and going to the front of the net and causing chaos. It's a great recipe. Love it. That's my hashtag, TCB Lamplighter of the game. But doesn't matter what I think or what Ken thinks, matters what you think. Share with us your TCB Lamplighter of the game. You're automatically entered to win a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. If you can't wait for Kenny or Renny to gift you your own 8-pack, you can head on down and get your own at 11290 Keniston. Join them in their tap room. And while you're there, do yourself a favor. Have some of their great pizza. Have some of their great salad. It was Tico who sent me a picture of the salad that he had there and gave the recommendation. Of course, lots of great beers, great service. Everything is great when you go to TCB, and everything is great right now for Sunny Side Up, because Sunny Side Up, you won the TCB Lamplighter, so you know what that means. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name. Send me an email. I will send you a voucher for a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. Let me assure you, it is the nectar of the gods. Ken, anything to say before we get going?
Yeah, just a quickie. Colleague Mike McIntyre celebrated a big milestone on Friday night, big 5-0 for Mike McIntyre. So happy birthday to my colleague at the Winnipeg Free Press, and Sportsnet friend John Abbott also turned 40 yesterday. So big birthday weekend for a couple of the media folks.
Yeah, no problem. Good stuff. Good. Happy birthday, Mikey. Great guy to be on the beat with. I'm going to shut this down and say it was a nice homestand. Nice to be home for this stretch of time. Rennie's been home for quite a long time here. I've got one more weekend before I take off. My next game will be down in Washington. Isn't that going to be a good one between the Winnipeg Jets and of course the Washington Capitals? Ken will be joining me there. I'm sure Ken's got some good places we can find to eat down there. Anyway, before we do go, I wanted to say this. If you appreciate the conversation happening in this space, I implore you to support our sponsors who fight to keep the conversation going in this space. For us, that's Vittorio Rossi, Pristine Roofing, Cambrian Credit Union, Sweet Lou Furlan, the Kenny and Renny OGs, and the Johnston Group, the Keg, and of course, TransCanada Brewing Company. Thank you to them. Thank you to all of you. We will catch you next time. Bye-bye.